We're going to get into a very depressing situation, corruption in the Department of Justice. And this is going to affect every American. So earlier this week, FBI Chief Christopher Wray gave an interview to Fox News. And then Attorney General Merrick Garland testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Both of those things are the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. We begin with a federal statute. Title 18, Section 1507 of the U.S. Code. It was enacted in 1950. It says, quote, "Under this law, it is illegal to picket or parade in front of a courthouse or a judge's home with intent of interfering with, obstructing, or impeding the administration of justice, or with the intent of influencing any judge," unquote. Well, that is exactly what happened on May 7, 2022, in front of Justice Kavanaugh's home and Chief Justice Roberts' home. So we're going to roll some tape now. On the radio, I'll describe it to you. There's dozens of protesters, some with bullhorns, all right, and they are out in front of the House because of the abortion ruling, all right? And there's even sound on tape of this. Go.
We will not go back. I see you, buddy. We will not go back. We will not go back. We will not go back.
So the people who did that violated the law. But none of them were prosecuted. None of them. Why? So when you get to that point, and to put it into perspective, dozens, almost 40 pro-life protesters have been prosecuted by the Justice Department since Biden's been in office. And they did the same thing. Those protesters were in front of abortion clinics, and they were protesting, and there's a law, and they were prosecuted. But nobody prosecuted the Supreme Court thing. So the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, is in charge of that. And yesterday he testifies in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Go.
As the Department of Justice enforced this statute, have you brought a single case against any of these protesters threatening the justices under 18 U.S.C. Section 1507? Have you brought even one?
Senator, you asked me whether I sat on my hands, and quite the opposite. I sent 70 United States Marshals.
Let me try again.
To defend. And
has the Department of Justice brought even a single case under this statute? It's a yes/no question. It's not a give a speech on the other things you did.
The job of the United States Marshals is to defend the lives.
So the answer is no.
It's to defend the lives of the justices. And that's their number one priority. They have.
Why are you unwilling to say no? The answer is no. You know it's no. I know it's no. Everyone in this hearing room knows it's no. You're not willing to answer a question. Have you brought a case under this statute? Yes or no?
As far as I know, we haven't. And what we have done is defended the lives of the justices.
Okay, so Garland admits that he's not enforcing the law. Why isn't he enforcing the law? It's not hard to enforce the law when you have tape. You just saw the tape, and on the radio you heard the tape. Because the Biden administration doesn't want that. Because those protesters were demonstrating their anger over the abortion situation going back to the states. And the Biden administration didn't like that ruling. So they don't want anybody prosecuted. That's what happens in Venezuela. Or in Russia, in totalitarian regimes. That's what happens. So my confidence as an American citizen, not just a journalist, analyst, gone. Remember, Merrick Garland was almost a Supreme Court justice himself, but he was voted down. And I'm sitting there going, this man, Garland, he knows what the law is, simply will not enforce the law. Okay. Let's go to the Mark Houck case. I have to confess that I was not familiar with this case until this week, and I should have been. He is 48 years old. He is an anti-abortion activist who was accused of assaulting a 72-year-old clinic volunteer, an abortion volunteer, named Bruce Love, outside a Planned Parenthood clinic in Philadelphia. He was arrested. He was charged. The incident took place on October 13, 2021. He was charged with 2 counts of violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. Okay? Now, when he was arrested, his wife told news agencies that 25 federal agents with guns drawn in about 15 vehicles pounded on their front door and threatened to break it down. Okay? So it was a massive raid, even though Houck and his attorney said they would have turned themselves in. I mean, Mark Houck would have turned himself in. Didn't need the raid. There are pictures of the raid. So this is the FBI. And Christopher Wray was in charge of this raid. His boss is Merrick Garland, the Attorney General. Wray doesn't just do stuff on his own. He's got to go up the chain of command because the FBI works for the Department of Justice. Okay? All right. So the kicker is, and this is incredible, that Mark Houck was found not guilty by a jury. He was acquitted of any law breaking. Yet his family was terrorized, he was prosecuted, and that was another subject of inquisition yesterday for Merrick Garland. Senator Josh Hawley is the questioner. Go.
Let's talk about the Mark Houck case, for example. You've been asked about this already today, and frankly, your answers really astound me. This is a case where a Catholic pro-life demonstrator, father, was accused of disorderly conduct in front of an abortion center. The local prosecutor, the Philadelphia district attorney, who is a Democrat, a liberal, very progressive, declined to prosecute. There was a private suit that got dismissed. And then after all of that, your Justice Department sent between 20 and 30 armed agents in the early morning hours to the Houck's private residence to arrest this guy after he had offered to turn himself in voluntarily. Here's the photo. Once again, you can see the long guns. You can see the ballistic shields. You can see that they're wearing bulletproof vests. Why did the Justice Department do this? Why did you send 20 to 30 SWAT-style agents and a SWAT-style team to this guy's house when everybody else had declined to prosecute and he'd offered to turn himself in?
Determinations of how to make arrests under arrest warrants are made based by the tactical operators in the district. They are not.
But you surely looked into it by this point, right? You know the answer, surely.
All I know is what the FBI has said, which is that they made decisions on the ground as to what was safest and easiest. So they do not agree with your description of what happened on the scene.
You don't agree with my description. I'm pointing out what the photo is.
Okay, so is there anybody that you can think of in recent memory who's come across more weaselly, weasel is a word, than Merrick Garland? Anyone, any public servant. I mean, Buttigieg comes to mind, but that's the Attorney General of the United States? He clearly knows what happened in the Supreme Court justice situation, and he knows what happened in the Houck case. So what do? There's nothing that we can do. Nothing. As honest American citizens, we have to endure this because Joe Biden was elected president. An honest president would fire Christopher Wray like that. And remember, Trump appointed him. Okay? And Garland would have never been appointed to the position of Attorney General. He's weak. He's corrupt. He's not looking out for justice, equal justice for all. No. So when it gets to that point, I'm somebody who loves my country. And I just go, you know, I know we have to endure 2 more years of Joe Biden, who is absolutely the second worst president in the history of this republic next to James Buchanan. I know there's nothing we can do but to endure that. But if this man is reelected, and I don't think he's going to run, but I could be wrong about that. But if he's given 4 more years, you can kiss this country goodbye. Because he'll bankrupt it, number one, with all the irresponsible spending. And all of these departments, Buttigieg, Transportation, Garland, Justice, they're so corrupt. It's just, you see it. This is a society where we have hearings in the Senate, okay? You can see it and hear it. But here's the most depressing part of it all. 40%, 45% of Americans don't care if their country's corrupt. And that's a memo.